on the roof yesterday. I'm pretty sure he did. I know he did.
Oh, I know he
What
did
leads
too.
you to believe such a thing happened?
Because he came downstairs and he had his blanket and he came out of Evan's room, which is the only access to the roof. He got a biggest smile on his face. The girl, also a vegan, may I add, is like,
No, we didn't do that.
he's like, no. And then Andre goes, no, man, it was a full moon. Why would I do that?
What kind of answer is that?
What? How does a
That's
full
like
moon
that's like saying to someone, "Yo,
prohibit this?"
That's like saying to someone, "Did you eat before you came here?" And they're like, "Well, there was sandpaper outside."
Yeah.
Like, what?
Hey, you hooked
Yeah,
up. You
the
hooked up.
Santa
or something.
Ana
Just
winds
nod
are
at
in
me. He
right now.
keeps denying. Didn't I tell you die? Is that what you're doing? I think it is.
Well, guess what? It's
You know
time
what?
for you to die, motherfucker.
You know what they call that, right?
Lying.
No. Having sex on the roof.
Oh, what?
Saint Nicholas. Yeah.
That's
I'll be honest
awesome.
with you, I would have
Yeah.
laughed more, but when you said it already once today, it took all the
away.
air.
It is a
out of
recycled
I had to
joke.
say it for the world, though.
I know.
You're welcome.
I know. That's funny. I'm jealous, bro, to be honest. I'm envious, and more so I'm mad at you. We talked about it and I told you I wanted to be the first to do that. I told
Yeah.
you I wanted to also that we have a giant pot. It looks like a big grenade in the backyard. I want to somehow get in there and fuck.
It's like
Interesting.
12 feet tall.
Like that's the whole point. Like you get in, who knows how many days you're gonna be in there stuck.
I feel like you're at the
Just fucking-
bottom of the totem pole in terms of fucking in cool places at your own house.
I would say he's more like elevation wise. He's more in the top 3/4 quadrant.
You're straight in the bed.
Right, which is elevation wise. It's just Andres
Spence,
obviously taking
what
the
are you
cake.
doing right now? Why are you making this so difficult?
I almost jumped off the roof once
Don't do that.
because I was sexually frustrated with a girl, and I said I was gonna jump off the roof.
You didn't do it?
And now, well,
Did you get out on the roof?
Yeah, I did. I was in my boxers.
Really?
I don't think any of y'all lived here when this happened. I was on the roof. I don't know. I'm sure I would tread lightly here, but
Yeah, because you know how hard it is to get on the roof,
nah, just like, I don't know.
being on the roof and all.
Have you ever get so frustrated? You strip down nude.
And you find an
Roof.
area to jump? No, I haven't.
Okay.
I don't think.
none of
I don't think most
none of
people
this
have.
really seems easily replicable. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Jordan Belfort, by the way, wouldn't sign the NDA.
Yep.
So Jordan Belfort could sue us.
Yep. I don't know if that's what's worse, that or him blatantly denying climate change.
That was so funny. You got into a fight with the Wolf of Wall
I'm
Street.
not like, don't get mad at me, but like, is he right?
Hell no, he's not right.
I don't know.
You do know.
He's just.
Any-
I don't know because he's a
Any
smart guy,
studious
bro.
human being
Well,
knows.
he is studious. He's very studious.
What was
And
his-
that's
You're
even
right.
that's
You're
even a
right.
bad word for you to use because he's 9 times more studious than you are technically.
What was his argument?
in different fields, because if has zero knowledge on climate change, he's probably more studious in selling.
I don't know.
Here's
know,
what I
so
here's
how
what
do
I
you measure
here's what
that?
I didn't like. His
More
approach.
experience, I agree with you.
You still going?
Yeah, I was a little bit, but now I'm not.
His approach on debating was just batter his opponent relentlessly.
Yeah.
Like every time Spencer would go to say anything, he would be like, "No, let me stop you right there, buddy."
I asked
I'm
Spencer.
like, dude, he hasn't gotten one fucking word out.
this
he
question.
palled you and he buddied
buddied
you.
you.
Yo, but I asked you, I said, in 2013, when you were, how old? Like 19, 20?
Somewhere in there.
6.
I was like, yo, when you watched The Wolf of Wall Street, did you ever imagine you're going to be sitting next to the Wolf of Wall Street
No.
arguing about climate change? I thought y'all were going to fight.
Yeah.
I mean-
yeah. I was thinking how many people have actually like stood up against him.
Probably not a lot.
Probably not a lot.
That's why when it happened, and by the way, I'm so sorry. You know I love you guys, but when y'all get in fights with the guests, yo, this is the greatest
Oh,
moment
you
of my
should.
life.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
hashtag content.
And I told Mike, I said,
Excellent
if I
views.
ever get in a fight with the guests, and by the way, I hope it happens. It almost happened with the vegan James Aspie, like minor,
kinda.
but like sit back, yo, and enjoy the show.
Be-
No,
Because
we're gonna hype it up
because you were.
do it too.
I remember that fight. You were trying to argue that a human's life was more valuable than the local squirrel.
He had a good point though. He had a good point.
Me?
No. The
squirrel
James,
had a good point.
The squirrel
Oh.
had a good point.
He said, well, because he said, what human are we? Like, if it's Hitler, then yeah, like that's squirrel's the
Exactly.
dopest.
Can you say it in
is a good
his
point.
voice? Can you say it in his voice?
Hitler. Hitler. If it was Hitler, I'd choose the squirrel. Squirrel, you squirrel.
Why are you talking?
It was
like
you
He's
were like
Australian.
you had it like 5%.
Hey, listen, we got a dope guest today. This podcast is gonna make you a better person. It's gonna make you a better citizen.
lose weight,
Really?
stronger?
That's why we are the number 1 podcast in the world, by the way.
There's
you
so
can
many
do about anything.
fringe benefits.
Yeah.
He's an exposer, guys. He's been exposing dirty justice since 2011. His goal has been to spread knowledge, empower people, and encourage responsibility to create safer communities. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Checkpoint. What up, champ?
What up?
Yo, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it,
Thanks
bro.
for coming on, dude.
Absolutely.
Big ass crystal on your neck.
I'm trying to align my chakras.
Bling,
there we go.
bling.
There we go.
You're already speaking Spencer's language. You just got a boner
Respect.
under the table.
Touch?
Touch it. Touch
you
his
know, I'm
face,
already
dude.
Why not?
excited.
Touch
all
each
right?
other's,
I probably should.
touch each other's chakras.
All right.
Nah, blend your chakras, man.
Want to blend each other's chakras? That's not even a thing.
Well, whatever. Blend them up, man.
Hey, so yo,
Yeah.
what's good?
Everything.
Really?
Very good.
What do you do, man? What's your story?
So I started exposing bad cops. It really started. I come from a family of attorneys. My grandpa's attorney, my dad's a lawyer. Like I grew up and it was always never take shit. It didn't matter if it was the teacher, like a company. I bought a laptop when I was 13 and was supposed to burn CDs. I'm trying to burn the CD. It never works. Calling customer support. They send me a box of parts. I ended up taking Compact to small claims court when I was 13. Being
Really?
you sold, this is a lemon, and won in small claims court, got all the money back. And from then I'm just my dad taught me accountability is a real thing. And then maybe fast forward a couple of years, I got a curfew ticket. You know, my dad goes, hey, you and your friends go to the Carl's Jr. I'm going to pick you up. Cops come, give us curfew tickets. My dad looks up the law. He's like, no, that's not right. I'm going to fight it for you and all your friends. And it's not even a big deal. It's literally a parking ticket. It's
Right.
no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, that's wrong. You weren't supposed to get that. We had a hearing with a judge for a curfew ticket. We lost, but my dad paid for a court reporter. So he appealed a curfew ticket. We went to the next level of this shit. He's like, look, this is where it was messed up. Anyways, the whole thing got dismissed. And it was over nothing, but it taught me there's policy, there's procedure. It doesn't matter if it's a cop or who of authority, they're supposed to follow the law. And if not, there's repercussions or there's some way to handle it.
So your whole thing is holding people accountable now for a justice system that isn't as fair as it should be. Is that's your
Yeah.
stick?
Yeah. And where it jumped into checkpoint specifically was I was at San Diego State. There was a checkpoint always right near the school. And so at the time I actually had a coupon book and I thought the kid students would want to know where the checkpoints were. So I literally hit up to a company that was sending text messages of where the checkpoints were. Yo, you should be my coupon book. Boom. We have a deal. I put them in there. They never come through. They don't pay me. Right. And I'm yo, I put you in my coupon, whatever. Then fast forward, I'm watching the news. Maybe this is within 2 months. I'm watching the news and it says that they're using DUI checkpoints in Chula Vista and Escondido to tow cars of unlicensed drivers. So they would be towing 40 people's cars in one night for no license, but they're calling it a DUI checkpoint. You know, for me, I think a DUI checkpoint, just the idea of it, I think is unconstitutional.
How come? Just
we should
curious.
be able to travel freely without being asked, where
So-
are you going?
Yeah.
Why? And so when I saw that specific news doc, little segment that showed tow truck companies were paying the police departments hundreds of thousands of dollars to be the tow truck company on file, it seemed wrong to me. I went to the checkpoint. There's no bars, right? They're asking if you've been drinking, but it's not about that. It's they're using it to generate revenue. And then I'm man, I'm just going to start tweeting this stuff.
So you have a problem with so just for people who are watching this that don't understand, DUI checkpoints are generally set up in the area of bars or on nights that are more likely to have people who are drinking and driving. New Year's Eve,
Yeah, Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Super Bowl, that kind of thing. So I already have a feeling that I'm gonna be devil's advocate on a lot of stuff with you today, which is gonna be fun.
please.
What are your thoughts when you do something that disrupts a DUI checkpoint or gets people to vacate that route in order to go around it, and someone who is drunk plows through an SUV with 4, 5-year-old children in it and they all die?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So a DUI checkpoint and its purpose is to be preventative. There's 8 laws that the DUI checkpoint has to follow for it to even be constitutional. And so one of those laws is advanced publicity. So the idea is they go to the media and go, hey, tell everyone there's a checkpoint this
Yep.
weekend at Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
Now, they do that. People then make responsible decisions. Yo, there's a checkpoint going to be there. Let's call. I was doing this before Uber, right? So it's let's get a taxi. You know what I'm saying? And the idea is preventative. A successful DUI checkpoint by the numbers catches very low amount of DUIs. It's under 1%. If those same officers went in the field and looked for signs of drunk driving, the arrest rate is 14%. So when they want to catch drunk drivers, it's a very simple thing. They go in the field, they look for drivers that are weaving, and they pull them over. But when they want to do advanced publicity, and the idea of the checkpoint is 2,000 cars will like go around, like through it. But even on the other side, their whole point is like people will see police presence. They give them a little thing that says, hey, a DUI can cost you 10 grand. It's super dangerous. Little statistics. It's actually about education.
Yeah, it's a deterrent.
It's a deterrent, right? So then if you have a service like Mr. Checkpoint where I could reach literally millions of people just by clicking buttons and giving them the same information. And then when Uber came along, I'm plugging them directly with Uber, showing 10,000 plus tracked rides through my referral links. Who's more effective at the end of the day in getting people to make more responsible decisions? Is it the checkpoint, or is it me even being able to promote the checkpoint?
My thought on it is that you promoting it probably doesn't act as much of a deterrent because there's an inherent risk of driving through that checkpoint drunk, or by the way, accidentally forgetting. Like I've had times where I've been like, oh, I know that, and then you forget, whatever the case, right? Mm-hmm. You promoting it, people may read the material, they may still go out and drink. I think a real deterrent is, wow, there's an actual penalty.
I don't know if there's any real life implications to just awareness of the checkpoint.
Well, that's what I mean. He's saying though, like statistically, there is,
right,
because people will be more. They're
and so to safer. Touch on that is, as I promote it, like the response I got, I could show you literally like hundreds of messages that said, "Thank you for that alert." They'll send me photos of them in their taxi, them in their on the bus, getting a hotel. Walking. Mothers Against Drunk Drivers and police both agree that well-publicized checkpoints helps deter drunk driving by 20%. They're not saying we're going to catch a bunch of drunk drivers because we do a bunch of checkpoints. No, it deters the drunk driving. Right. In nature, its whole thing is about publicity and education. When I started promoting it, LAPD would literally, at Mr. Checkpoint, I used to go on the radio every Friday and report all the checkpoints for the weekend. I'm not like a psychic. This is all public information. Yep. Department's putting it on their blog. It's just, we're millennials and whatnot, right? We don't know we're not watching morning news at 8 a.m., 6 a.m. So for me, it's like, you're on social media. That's where the information should be.
Gotcha.
So is it mostly checkpoint stuff that you're doing, or what else are you?
And is this your full-time job? Are you fully social media?
Yeah, I do some other stuff like with marketing and things like that. But I would say it's been like, it started kind of as a passion project. I was like putting full time, then I'd get distracted and do something else. But it's always been in the background. I've like funded it completely myself the whole time. It started as checkpoints, but I also do like speed traps. And think about a speed trap. So if I say a cop's hiding on Sunset, on the 405 freeway, right? Yep. How many people will see that and slow down, right? Like more people than he can catch hiding there and giving them a ticket. So what's more effective in public safety? Is it getting people to actually like be more responsible, slow down, or is it getting them, or is it generating revenue with tickets?
So you're talking about visibility as a deterrent as opposed to actionable checkpoints or speed traps.
Absolutely.
Which I agree with. I think a heavier police presence will always get people to act better, and to not fuck up, right?
100%.
But I'm looking at your Instagram. It looks like you're talking about stuff that's a lot more important than checkpoints on here. So what's going on with what are your views here on this?
So it really grew to something. I guess like the overall thing, it's creating safer community through transparency, accountability, and knowledge. So the transparency is me saying, look, we all know fuck the police, right? I don't think people are born like thinking, oh, fuck police, they're so bad, right? I think it's like they witness bad things happen to them or their family or their friends, and then have a feeling like, damn, the police did this to my boy. Or
what's the A?
So always.
Okay.
So I change it to always film the police.
Okay.
Because that's, to me, the most productive way to actually like expose good and bad cops, right? If a cop does something good, I think the community should know.
And do you think the majority of cops out there are doing good? Like what's the
It's a tricky thing. I have a friend who's a cop, and he told me just straight from his words, he goes, a third of us go because we need a paycheck. A third of us go because we were like bullied or were the bully and we want to like get that steam off and be kind of, you know, authoritative.
badass.
Yeah. And then a third of us want to actually do good in the community. How I look at it now, it's a tricky thing because, you know, I'll post a lot of these things of cops and someone will say to me, I want to be a cop now and do good. I want to be the good cop. Okay, what happens though when your partner does something you know is wrong? And you go you're like, I'm not telling them, or I'm gonna go tell the boss, I'm gonna tell the superior. And they go, hey, you didn't see that.
Yeah,
And that is the attitude in the police departments is it's a total cover up. They protect each other at all costs. I had an officer tell me in uniform, we were having lunch in Beverly Hills. He's in his uniform and he tells me, he's like, the only people that are held less accountable than us is the priests in church. Like that's his metric of like, see, it's worse there.
Yeah.
I'm like, how sick of you to say that when I don't have to go to church, right? But you have to patrol my area. Like I'm paying you. And that's the real problem I have is like accountability for companies and priests and whatever. I don't have to spend my time there. But at the end of the day, the cops are in people's homes and areas and in a sense, some are ruining people's livelihoods.
Yeah.
Do you have an inherent angst towards police? Like when you see a cop, what do you feel?
Oof. It's I'm super anxious. I'll say anxiety. Like if I'm holding the camera, it's like shaky. And I think like the reason I'm so passionate about it is because I feel that so much. And then I can only imagine like simply just the color of my skin.
Yeah.
The cop pulling me over doesn't really have a problem with me. It's once I start exercising my right. I had a personal experience. I was in Santa Monica. Officer, it was like 9:30 at night. So officer's like, how much? I made a right on a red. So total ticket, you know, I made a mistake.
Wait, what?
I made a right on like a red, but it said no right on red.
Okay,
Not at that light.
Yeah, not at that light. So cop lights me up. I start recording on my phone. I've like always just done that, been recording on my phone. Many times like I get a ticket or nothing, but I delete the footage, like no big deal.
Yeah.
But this particular night, the officer's like, have you been drinking? No. Are you on drugs? No. Follow my finger. And then, so in California, you don't legally have to do those tests of follow the finger, walk the line, balance on one foot, all those little acrobatic stuff. So I say, no, I'm not going to do that. So long story short, he ends up basically saying, you're going to go to jail for DUI. And like, where did you learn that? He gets kind of combative with me. And he ends up having me come out of the car, searches he says I'm drunk driving too, like multiple times in this little audio recording. You know, you're drunk driving. And I'm like, all right. And he ends up he does a search on my car and finds oxycodone, which was prescribed to me, like 100% legit. So I actually, the whole time I'm like, I'm going to go home because I'm going to blow in the breathalyzer and that's it. But once he finds the pills, which I forgot were even in the car, he's like, oh, this guy's on oxycodone.
How can he search your car?
It's like an inventory search. So he was already like, I'm going to take him to jail for DUI.
Oh, so at that point, so what that's called technically is after, so this is, I was addicted to drugs for a long time. So I've dealt with every single reason for a search, whether it be reasonable cause, whether it be me consenting, whether it be a warrant. I've been through every single one of those kinds of searches. So I'm intimately understand how that works. Technically, after you were detained, if you were to find something in that search, it would be considered fruit of the forbidden tree if it was an illegal search. So it would have been thrown out.
Right.
So he's detained you and actually gone into your car without asking, without reasonable cause, without warrant, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay, right.
So he finds the pills, and then I'm like, you know, the patrol car comes. He was a motorcycle cop. I'm like, where are we going? I figured jail. They say the hospital. You're getting your blood taken. So I say, okay. So take my blood. I spend the night in jail. And, you know, 3 months later, I get the blood results back and it's clean. Okay. So they never even file a DUI against me. And I ended up taking my audio footage. I got a lawyer and we sued the police department because my point of view was I spent a night in jail for exercising my right, which is like what it says. I mean, he says your bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred speech, pale face, you know, like the police report just says I'm just totally fucked up.
Right,
basically.
right.
Were you at all?
No.
It was
So wait, why not just follow the finger, dude?
That's a good question.
Because my dad, growing up, he taught me about this thing called the hassle factor. And sometimes you just got to suck it up because the hassle factor of what you went through that night just fucking sucks. Like, at what point are you just being difficult?
So I think, and that's fair enough. I think some people, right, they just want to go like follow their orders. But for me personally, like I'm a firm believer we have these rights. And if not for exercising them, we lose them. I really firmly believe that. And I think, you know, I look at people who exercise their rights with police in different situations, like truthfully as like patriotic as possible, because those people are like we have these rights for a reason. And so if people aren't holding the officers accountable, I mean, he wasn't even letting me know of my right. And if people aren't holding them accountable, then what rights do we even have?
Yeah, I asked that same question. I think that people walk this line between wanting to exercise their rights in order to protect them and also do what Logan has said. And so I've always in my life, whether it was when I was breaking the law or now when I'm not, done what Logan is talking about. I just, if a cop comes up to me and says license registration, my first thought is always, officer, good, sorry to cause you any disturbance tonight. Here's my license. Here's my registration. The good thing is, or the privileged thing for us is, if we as white people exercise our rights, we may get put in a cell for the night. Unfortunately, a lot of other people don't have that same privilege, and exercising your rights puts you in the ground nowadays. And so it's become and by the way, I'm not going to sit here and say that every police killing is unjust. Like every single story has a different basis. I've seen people running from the cops, unarmed, being shot in the back. Not okay for any reason. If the guy's moving away from you, why are you firing on him for any reason, right? And then you've seen some that are a little iffy. And by the way, another thing, it's really hard to sit here on a podcast, for me at least, and talk about those circumstances. Like everybody wants to talk about what should have happened, what should have been done differently on both the accused side as well as the cop side. And a lot of people don't have an understanding of what those scenarios are really fucking like. Like some of these cops have had friends killed in the line of duty. It's 4 a.m. on the side of a road in Alabama. A person that you're saying don't get out of the car under any circumstance gets out of the car fast and moves with some motion, it maybe with their ID. Right. It's such a scary world out there. And so like, I never have been able to come to any kind of solve for any of it. It's just really tricky shit. So my only solve, because of the dangers of not doing it, has been to comply. Meaning sit there, hands on the wheel, cop comes up, it's the middle of the night, license, officer, I'm going to reach very slowly for my license and hand it to you. And by the way, I also spark up a conversation like, this dude's doing his job.
That's me too. I just don't want to deal with it. Like, I got better things to do, to be honest with you. Like, I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, do your job. You want to be big boy for a second? Go for it.
Or not even big boys. Sometimes they're just doing.
I've always done with. I've always done with the big boys.
There's a lot of. I've seen even videos on your page where situations are escalated for no reason, where you could just it's not even complying. It's knowing your rights, but don't yell, don't combat. And it's so hard to say that when I'm not in that situation, because if there's blatant examples on your feed of officers approaching people who have done absolutely nothing wrong.
There was a new one today.
I would be pissed too, but it's like, don't escalate that situation if you don't have to. I feel like
there was a new one today really quick of a guy, you might be able to find it, was on Twitter, this guy who was just washing his car in front of his house, and I think in like Texas, and a cop came up to him and said, you have a warrant in Alabama. And the dude's like, I've never been to Alabama. The guy's like, you're Quentin. The guy's like, I'm not Quentin. Like, that's not who I am.
Yeah,
and so like, I understand that guy. He's in front of his family, in front of his home, washing his car. And I understand that guy's frustration. Like, how dare you come in my yard, arrest someone I'm not the person you have the warrant for. So I understand wanting to like turn around when they're trying to cuff you. But honestly, whether you're white, black, whatever the case, get cuffed, go to the holding cell. If you're able to record, and then if you can, sue the living shit out of the police. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know a scenario where like, if true compliance is followed all the way through, where like the really bad thing happens.
We've seen one case of it. I'm sorry. There's probably been many cases, but I've seen one in particular. There was a mentally handicapped black man on the ground playing with a toy truck.
Yeah, he was deaf, if I'm not mistaken.
He was deaf in something in a park, and his psychiatrist was there with him saying, please do not shoot him. It is a toy. He is complying. They're on the ground, literally. That has his hands up, and the cop actually shot the.
All right, I rescind what I just said.
The cop shot I believe, shot the doctor or aimed at the guy and shot the doctor or something. I believe the cop was arrested though.
Hey, that makes me lose hope.
I'd
in
like
everything.
to find that story.
Okay, so when police kill someone, like it's literally 1% of cops who have killed someone are held accountable. And a lot of those instances, the family was paid out, could be millions of dollars for wrongdoing,
but no
the cop,
criminal. Right.
Right. The cop's still an officer today, or he is transferred or whatnot. I would say like, yeah, I'm extreme on this. You know, I look at it as like people either deal with this every day and they can't speak up about it because they're literally dealing with it every day, or people really don't know what's happening. And so like I'm personally with Mr. Checkpoint trying to bridge that gap. You know, I've seen, to be honest, okay, so I always say AFTP, right? I got a video in from a guy and he goes, hey, it was like 2 a.m. I heard dogs barking. He sends me the video. It shows a guy getting out of an SUV and he's literally walking backwards. Like it's on my page somewhere. He's walking backwards with his hands over his head.
Yep.
And then the cops end up letting the dog bite the guy and beat him up. Okay, the guy had like, how was it, like 17 stitches from the dog, okay? And he's 100% walking backwards, like listening to everything. I shared that video. The guy, I end up getting a message on Facebook and it's like, yo, where's that video from? That's me. I'm the one with the 17 stitches from that dog. Like, I didn't know anyone was recording this.
Wow.
He was charged with resisting arrest, okay? I said, why were you even pulled over? What was the situation? Oh, they were looking for someone who did a robbery in the area. I wasn't the right guy. So people are getting arrested, right, for resisting arrest when they, or was it obstructing an investigation? What, there shouldn't even have been an investigation. I look at like Meek Mill.
Yeah. He
claims 19 years old, right? Like cops said he pointed a gun at him, right? We know today if people are killed way faster for a phone than actually pulling a gun out on another cop. And so my whole thing is like someone like Meek Mill, if someone was on the corner filming that interaction, would he still today be dealing with that case, right? He says it didn't happen as the cop said.
How much of this have you seen? Is it slowing down with the requirement to have police with chest cams?
Yeah, no, and officers do have chest cams. The thing with that is they can be turned off, they can be turned on, they can be covered. Yeah. You notice cops can be standing like this sometimes. You know, and I don't trust personally.
So they can legally turn them off?
It's definitely not.
It's probably not legal, but like, what if it's
they've never
dies?
I've never in my life heard of an officer getting in trouble for not having the camera on or off.
I've seen a lot of it where like afterwards, like when it comes time to.
Jeez, is this the video?
No, that isn't it. It would be down a bit, but
yeah,
some of these are just. It really isn't a. The sad thing is yeah, I mean. People are getting harassed by.
Well, if you're saying a third, how many police are there in the country? There's 1 million police.
So under, yeah.
So a third of that police force potentially is in the police force because they were bullied.
That was this one guy.
That's what his friend said.
Right. Potentially, I'm saying potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
That's a lot. That's a lot of people on the streets.
Was an officer. I don't know if he still is for New Jersey Police Department, and like, you know. People, I do believe, go in with good intentions, but I think at some point you're either leaving or you're fired or you're joining the boys in blue or the girls in blue. And it becomes that like definitive line of protecting one another. And that's where I have the biggest problem because this isn't people say to me even like, what would you do in these instances? Like, to be honest, I respect officers in their position so much. Like, I wouldn't be a good cop. I'm not saying I'm a cop or I want to be or anything, but I hold them to the highest standard of all time because they're paid by us to protect and serve us.
How much, when you travel to other countries, like I've been in Sweden, Norway, Finland, a lot of places in Europe, like a lot of these police forces aren't making money from the people as much as they are in the States. Is that true? Or what's your perspective on how the United States
No,
police
that's a
force
good
makes
question.
their
I
money?
mean, I've been in like Indonesia and traveling around Asia for the last 6 months. And, you know, I laugh because it's like we say we're the land of the free, America, right? We have more people in jail than China and India combined. Those two countries are much bigger than ours, right? Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting thing of like, how are we the land of the free? When more people are in prison, those people then can't vote, right? There's like all these things stacked against those people who are then becoming the system forever, right? It was 10 years ago or more. You know, it's a different thing. Like, yeah, the cops in other countries or Mexico or whatnot, right? They'll maybe pull you over, you could pay them off, you know, right? Like you do something wrong, you pay the officer. People call that corruption. To me, though, they're not like beating up people for no reason, or I don't know. I see such different kind of police abuse that is like comes in some ways a lot from racism that I don't see in other countries. Other countries, I think there's a corruption of like the officer wants to make money. He's not paid well, but are they like shooting people and killing people like this? Not even close.
So what percentage of that then comes to like gun laws and, you know,
that's what I'm thinking about right now. Like, I just think about how like deep of an issue this is, that like, it feels like it's not even as much about like police and like policy and shit like that in the police force. It feels like it's more of a systematic issue within this country. And whether it be racism, whether it be gun ownership, whether it be the way we just treat each other and how on edge we are as Americans and just the way of life in this country. I don't know what it is. And I think I don't feel like we're any closer to a solve than we ever have been either. Do you know what I'm saying? And another question I have too is, this is another big question that we hear all the time. And I think a lot of people on the right side use it as a argument against there even being a problem, which there's a fucking problem, right? Is this happening more, or are we just seeing more of it right now? Like, have police killings gone up? Have police brutality cases gone up since, let's say, the 80s? Or are we just seeing more of it because of cameras and because of phones?
Yeah, I think we're seeing it because of phones. I don't think it's necessarily like doing dramatic shifts and up or down. I just think, right, people are out there filming. Like, you think of Rodney King, the only reason that's so big is because there was footage of it from the helicopter, right? But now that kind of footage is getting passed around every day, all day. So it brings up more. In terms of this country, like the 13th Amendment specifically that like outlawed slavery, it says, it mentions slavery and then it says, unless you're a criminal, basically, right? It's giving you the right to continue slavery if you've done something wrong. And then what do? They make the people work for companies. Like, the whole thing is about...
And you're talking about people who go to prison, right?
People who go to prison, right.
Is it modern day slavery in a way?
I believe 100%. And I think they just use the system of the criminal justice system to like make it seem legitimate and make it seem okay. There was another point, but yeah.
There's a film called The 13th Amendment on Netflix. It's a documentary.
Yeah,
super good. Very good one.
Slavery that still exists is in prison here in the US.
What's
It's a real good documentary called The 13th Amendment.
If I'm not mistaken, they were fighting, like many inmates were fighting the California fires and getting paid under $1.
You're right.
A day.
I think there's also just so many different ways people look at it's just so many, just quickly on this one point, there's just so many opposing viewpoints. There are a lot of people who would say, and I'm not saying this, just like a lot of the other stuff I said today, there are a lot of people who would say, these are people who have broken the law.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Fuck
thinking.
'em.
What's wrong with the rationale of...
But here's my, and that's not me saying that. Here's my one immediate argument. There are people still in jail right now, you know, of all races, who broke weed laws, with a drug that is now pretty much legalized in America. There are people that are in jail for life.
I know.
For life, for breaking marijuana laws that are now legal. And it's like, so...
I have a thought on that. Because I agree, it's fucked up. But also, is it? I go back and forth on this because indeed weed is now legal, but it wasn't at a time. So should you just completely give way to the people that still technically broke a law?
Yeah.
Like,
They
is
should
it
be
okay to?
they should be
is-
pardoned.
I'm a believer in breaking unjust laws. Like, to me, I think that's like the foundation of our country, right? Like, there were laws, there was crazy taxation. Boom, they go to America because they want to feel free.
Don't
Yeah,
you think
true.
that gives?
And-
don't you think that gives too much power to the individual to decide what an like for example, Charles Manson probably thought murder was an unjust law. You know what I'm saying? And so like, don't you think that gives too much power to the individual to say, you know what, I'm not going to fuck with that law because it doesn't seem right to me.
No, I think everything's within reason, right? But there's
But
people,
but what I'm saying is your reason is very different. The reason why the Tea Party happened and the reason why people fought against taxation without representation is because every single person knew that was wrong. There are a lot of people in this country who think you should still go to jail if you smoke a joint.
right.
There are people in this jail who think if you don't put both your hands behind your back when you're being handcuffed, there's some people who think that's enough reason to be shot. I don't.
right.
I don't. But like, we've got a lot of, I think the disconnect in the country is one of the biggest things that leads to all of the problems we have.
Well, that's why filming is such a huge thing.
Yeah.
Like, if we didn't have these videos, unfortunately, like I hate watching them.
Yeah.
And they're terrible.
Horrible.
But if we weren't filming these police doing these things, we wouldn't be talking about it. We wouldn't be able to have these conversations.
The two things is, so like we talked about, why is it like this, right? And how does it get better? So why do we have laws, right? We have laws because shit, if I steal that, I might go to jail, right? Like, maybe I shouldn't steal that, right? You think about the crime or the punishment. Yeah, exactly. My number one thing of why I think police have this issue in our country is because they aren't held accountable. That's not just like, I'm not blaming police. That's just, it's a system of that.
I agree on
Even
this.
when officers are charged and or not charged, but when there's like a hearing and there's a jury, it's rare the jury, when it's filled with like older people, people believe cops, right? For decades, we've had a point of view and we've been fed a perception of police through, whether it's Cops, the TV show, the media, the newspapers. It's particularly positive towards police officers.
Yep, always.
This is the first time, just because it's actual transparency of people actually being able to show what's going on, that they're like, wow, maybe this isn't like that. But when the officers don't get in trouble, why are they ever afraid not to do wrong?
That I think is your biggest point. So I had two friends when I lived back in Connecticut about probably 10 or so years ago. They were driving. It was about 3 a.m. It was a Friday night. They were driving home. It was a normal night. Like it was a guy and a girl, young couple, probably 17 or 18 years old. And a cop from the neighboring city was driving back to the station, lights off, not sirens, headlights off in the middle of the night, driving, racing his friend in the cop car. They pulled out at the light. He went through the intersection, killed both of them. He went on trial, and I can't remember what he got, but similarly to what you're saying, I think he got like a couple years for like involuntary, whatever, right? That blue line that they stand behind where you can do no wrong is, I think, the biggest problem. So you've got a cop that, not in that case I'm talking about, but you've got a cop who shot someone in the back running away, which is not lawful, that was unarmed. And you've then got his captain, the person that was there on the scene, saying, oh, it didn't go down like that. Then video comes out and it did go down like that. All of that shit needs to stop. And so I think people say the best way to stop dirty cops is with good cops. People need to be stepping up to protect the position that deserves so much respect. Like, I respect cops and the danger they put themselves in, but fuck dirty cops, bro, who are giving a bad name to all the good ones.
Well, it's like
bro.
Zimmerman is still running around free, right?
Well, and that wasn't even a cop. He wasn't a cop, but that was
Yeah,
right.
that's
I mean, it
different,
was
yeah.
still similar.
But still, like,
situation of bad happening and not being held
crazy.
accountable. And it's
I mean, that's a story that's like still to this day just blows my mind.
Crazy.
Like how someone like that can get let off the hook.
And he said a lot. He said a ton after it too. Oh, he's in jail now.
He is, but it wasn't for
It was
that.
for
It was
something
for something else after.
He
And that-
threatened someone else, right?
Yeah.
Or something.
There was something else.
Yeah.
That's the thing is a lot of these cops who
something
do
happened.
something wrong, this isn't their first time. You know, the officer who put me in jail, where I ended up getting a $70,000 settlement from Santa Monica.
Oh, dope. Damn.
You're always cashing
After
it,
3
bro.
years.
Okay, so that
Bro,
makes it a little more worth it.
And
Yeah, hey,
70K
true.
Now you wanna
for
exercise,
12
right?
hours?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all
70
right.
grand.
You probably got a couple of meals. Did you get anything to eat
One
in there?
meal, yeah.
I mean, 70K
What
and
was
some
the
good
meal?
food, bro.
It was actually expired cereal.
What cereal?
This is
They
crucial.
look like special.
Okay.
They gave you.
shit.
You're telling me that the
didn't give
cops
you-
gave you special K in jail?
Yeah.
Holy shit! What kind
they
of
couldn't give you
lockup
like
was this?
Reese's
Yeah.
Puffs. or something.
No, but that officer who did that, right, like the judge listened to my audio and goes, what the officer said didn't happen, right? Like this didn't go down as he said. This didn't go down as is in the police report. I'm not the first one. Another guy got made $99,000 off this same cop, right? These cops will have, and who knows how many,
Hey, where does that money come from?
the city.
Yeah, city.
But where does that money come from?
Us. He paid himself.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah. Fuck, bro.
Okay, but where else is that money gonna go?
It
Like,
should
it's
come
either gonna
from-
go
it
to
should come
more-
from the police.
True.
Police power or
Yeah.
back to the
True,
people
true.
where it should be in the first
True.
place.
Well, I don't know. Where technically does it come from the police department, or does it just
No,
come
it's
from?
literally the city.
From the city.
Like
Yeah,
I've
but
seen
it's,
Santa
so it's
Monica
not that
City.
it might not be more police power. It might be like a playground for kids. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'd rather my boy ball out. All right.
What did you spend that money on? You got a moped, I bet.
you updated
That's what I would've done.
the Mr. Checkpoint app.
Did you get some rims?
Honestly, yeah, I've spent like good money on Mr. Checkpoint.
Oh, really?
And so
That's
like
awesome.
I've put I mean, I've always had it on the side. So like any money I've made, I've funded it. I used to like send text messages.
How old are you?
31.
Great age. I
Yo,
remember
Logan,
when
you
I
ever
was
been
31.
arrested
Really?
I'm 34.
or any run-in?
I did
Yeah.
not. Did I?
It's not that. It's just, is this during Russia? Wait, when is that?
this is probably during
just
Russia.
skip all of it for right now.
Why?
Just can't talk about it right now.
Being arrested?
yeah.
Oh, I just said I didn't, so we're probably all right.
Perfect. Congratulations.
There was a
serious.
There was a close call.
Let's hear about it. What happened?
This could have been bad. All right, mind you, not to brag, but in high school, bro, scholar athlete, like 4.7 GPA, football team captain, running back, all that shit, bro. I'm 18 years old and I wanted to make some money, bro. Because mowing lawns and doing all the like landscaping, mulching and shit is hard.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what am I good at? And what do I like? I like animals and I like deer antlers.
Oh my God.
And I'm a handyman. I'm an artist. So
Okay.
I would, and I knew about this thing called weed. Everyone was smoking weed in high school. I was like, yo, what if I made bowls out of deer antlers? So I would,
What?
I would,
I've never
Jeff,
heard
you-
this
Jeff,
story.
you-
I would,
Do you know this?
I would take my drills and I would just drill into deer antlers and gorilla glue them together. And like make the pipe and everything, and now you got this like oh yeah, now you got these bowls out of deer antlers.
For perfect for tobacco smoking.
Yes,
Yeah.
for tobacco, but I
Yes.
really was weed, bro. Like so I go and tell these. I go to the kid's house. I'd be like, try it out, and they'd smoke, and I sell it for like
Damn,
20
bro.
bucks, bro.
This is like
Hustler.
the dark side of Logan Paul.
That's the darkest it
I mean,
gets.
it's dope. It's
I
a
didn't
dope
smoke.
side.
Literally
I meant to
dope.
say dope side.
I didn't smoke. I'm an entrepreneur, bro.
Hey,
so
respect.
And by the way, I sold like 2. I made like $40 total. Anyways, a girl smoked weed out of one day, and I ended up taking it back home. And a cop pulled me over. I was like, "Fuck." He's like, "Do you have any drugs or alcohol? Any weed?" I was like, "No, sir." He's like, "I have my dog in my car. should I get the dog so he can sniff? Because if you're lying to me, you're going to jail. I was like, nope, no, sir. And I really didn't think twice about it. And then when I got home, I realized remnants of the girl's weed was in the tobacco or the bowl that I had made in the glove box. And I asked my dad, I was like, yo, do you think the dog would have like smelled a little bit? He's like, yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
It's so weird how
So
cops
thank God, bro.
will throw that in. Like, yo, I got my dog. You making sure you're not lying,
Well,
bud?
I also
You look
thought
back,
he was
It's
like,
like,
there's just no
why do you have
dog.
to say that, dude? Like,
well, because
were you giving him lip?
well, I was positive that I didn't have weed on me.
But why
That's
did
in
he?
my
Why
mind.
did he get so aggressive? with
Because
you?
he's like, I'll go get my dog. I was like, no. But I was like, no, that's fine. Like I was so nonchalant about it, he probably believed me. Or he didn't have a dog in the back. And he was bluffing.
It's just
Dog's
weird though
tricky.
that
No,
like
I mean-
cops
Scary.
try to incriminate you instead of like,
yeah.
why aren't they pulling you over? Just making sure everything's
listen,
good.
I mean,
Well,
like,
it's their job.
listen, I was just
no,
gonna
it's
say-
not their
No,
job.
no,
It's
but
not
listen,
their job to try to
listen.
incriminate people.
No, not to incriminate falsely, but I will say this, and at the end of the day,
But they do that all
hear me
the
out.
fucking time.
I got it, but what I'm saying is this: the Wolf of Wall Street's job is to sell stocks. He would say to someone, "I'm telling you, man, this one's going through the roof," and some poor schmuck would bet their mortgage on it, lose their fucking house, right? But he would still get paid. Cops have to hit a quota. I'm not saying that's right, but they're supposed to hit this many speeding tickets, this many
Yeah,
arrests,
that's
whatever.
fucked up too, though.
But
I hate that.
Quotas do
Yeah.
exist, and they exist, and even more so where I'm from, or just close to where I'm from in New York City, we have stop and frisk,
yeah.
stop and frisk, and so like you're walking down the street and they say, what's the deal with stop and frisk right now? Is it still?
I think they could have stopped it, like put an end to it.
But is it still
it's-
going right now?
I think their people are experiencing
so they
it.
they come up to you and they
Right.
say, "Hey, how you doing today? We'd like to frisk you, right?
Right,
I mean, it's
for
that
no-
easy,
for no
reason,
reason.
and they're legally able to do it.
and
God,
actually, I'm glad you mentioned
terrible.
that because you're like, why care so much or why exercise